Hey guys, what's going on? This is Brad from the Ad Army, and today we are going to be going over the very best cards, the best 5 cards in EX8, and we're going to be jumping straight into it right now. But before that, I have one little request of you as always, and that is simply to like, comment, and subscribe. It does help out when you join the Ad Army, as we are on the rise to 500 subs, and we can get there with your help. So let's jump into it as we dive into the depths first, as we're going to be introduced to what I think is one of the best cards, as we have Metal Cedron Ace. Metal Cedron Ace is obviously a part of the Deep Saver's archetype, and it has the DS trait to kind of back that up. But additionally, it can Digivolve on top of any level 5 with the Deep Saver's trait for a cost of 3. It carries the Blast Evolution mechanic as always, and additionally, on play and when Digivolving, you get to Digivolve one of your opponent's Digimon, then you return one of their play cost 7 or lower Digimon to the bottom of the deck. Then during all turns, while you have 1 or more memory, none of your opponent's Digimon can suspend. Additionally, this is treated as having the aquatic type. So one of the most amazing things about this card is that it just has very good effects. Being able to blast Digivolve and go ahead and de-Digivolve, or just simply Digivolve into this thing and de-Digivolve, is so powerful. Additionally, it then allows you to bounce a play cost 7 or lower. That is primarily a lot of level 5s, and if there is an Ace Digimon, you will be either de-Digivolving it to gain overflow from it, or possibly bouncing it back to get more memory that way through overflow. Additionally, its effect where it's all turns is very good because it is effectively allows you to stun your opponent's Digimon from blocking. This is really cool because if you have a wide board and you're just going for a lot of swings, this card actually just paralyzes your opponent's field while you have 1 or more memory. Remember, have to have 1 or more, so 2 would be perfect. This just lets you stun your opponent's board, and I think that's really cool. Additionally, we have something in the case of the decks it supports. We first have to talk about Aquatic, because Aquatic really gets a step up with this card. Yes, Aquatic, I think, gets a similar step up with all the cards from EX8 and the Deep Saver's traits, but for Metal Cedron Ace, what this really allows the deck to do is it has a very good level 6 top end that can just surprise your opponent. I think whether you're playing the Deep Sabers, which we'll talk about in a second, or playing just Aquatic with maybe Ryugumon and some of the support that is focused around that, this card is a fantastic inclusion in that deck because it just gives some disruption that your opponent isn't prepared for. Also, bouncing your opponent's Digimon is very good because you can de-Digivolve something and just choose to bounce another Digimon altogether, and I think that's exactly where Metal Cedron shines. Additionally, something like the Deep Saber's traded deck itself, obviously this is one of its boss Digimon. It really wants you to play Aegistramon alongside Metal Cedron Ace, because technically it is sort of a component when really you just want to play it out through Aegistramon's effect. Additionally, it allows you to play level 5s out through Aegistramon and then blast Digivolve them into Metal Cedron Ace. I think that's just a very cool type of dynamic you can get with the deck, and I think that's exactly why Metal Cedron Ace is designed for the deck, giving them a lot of reinforcement and the ability to be aggressive. And then finally, I have in the last slot, these are decks that just either need a top end that's blue or black, or something like the Black Blocker generic deck, which is kind of like a hodgepodge of like the hybrid cards mixed with Tamers. Additionally, it's mixed with the Shoto Kazama and the Mother D Reaper. This is a deck I think that obviously uses some like Shadow Seraphimon on its top end, but would love to have something like Aegistramon, or in this case, we're talking about the Metal Cedron Ace as its top end, because it's just a very powerful card. Like I said, that de-Digivolve and that bounce cannot be underestimated. That can literally turn the tides of the game. And like I said, that last effect is just so good because you can just stun a board and just your opponent literally can't do anything while you can commit your swings if they don't have another way or a security bomb. So I think that's really cool. Moving into the next one, we have a compatriot to Metal Cedron in the form of another Dark Master, but today we are going to be talking about the Jester of Darkness himself. We have Pyon Ace, as Pyon Ace will be returning to assist the Nightmare Soldiers, as this is a purple-yellow Ace Digimon. Starting off, it can also Digivolve on top of any level 5 with a Nightmare Soldiers trait for a cost of 3, and it can blast Digivolve because it is obviously an Ace Digimon, but it has a very unique effect in that on plane when Digivolving, you get to activate the effect below 4 times, which is one of your opponent's Digimon gets minus 2000 DP for the turn. Additionally, during all turns, once per turn, when other Digimon are deleted, you may play one level 4 or lower Nightmare Soldiers trait Digimon card from your trash without paying the cost. I want to talk about Pyon Ace because this card I think is very slept on when it comes to the set. Now, the main reason I think this card is so slept on is when I read its effect the first time, and I don't mean the secondary effect, the first effect, I was really perplexed in that I thought it meant you can use the effect 4 times on a singular Digimon. However, This means that you can use this effect applied 4 times, effectively meaning like 4 ways. But the point of it is, when you're using this card, it will allow you to basically reduce 8,000 in total. Now, the reason this is good is if you need to think back to something like BT2 Shine Greymon, this is actually a very similar effect, and where you get to distribute DP reduction across the board. Now, the reason this is so big is that it gives Pyon Ace the ability to effectively either destroy a Digimon that may be attacking by reducing it a lot and it'll lose a security battle, or what you can do is if your opponent's swinging with a wide board and they have maybe a lot of rookies or champions, by Blast Digivolving into this, you can kind of wipe out their other attacks. You can wipe out Floodgate Digimon. I think this is one of the cool aspects of this card because it really can change the pitch of a game. And what I mean is, while your opponent's trying to maybe take advantage of you and finish you off, they end up running into this Pyon Ace. It reduces the DP, and that might just be enough to get you through and win security battles, or allows your opponent to run into Digimon and they just can't get over it. Because Pyon Ace does have 12,000 DP as its base body, so if they're running into this thing, there's a chance you could reduce it enough so a Digimon to, die. Additionally, when we're talking about its all turns effect, this is an effect I will talk about when I talk about the Nightmare Soldiers in their own video. They will be having their own engine access, so expect that soon. But this effect actually is very good, and I'll explain it more in depth in another video, but it's still a very good effect to play back any of the level 4 lower Nightmare Soldiers trade Digimon card in your trash. So we'll talk about that later, but the point is, it's still a good effect. When we look at the decks it's really good in, I think there's a few. Now, starting off, I think something like Security Control can really actually take this card a bit more seriously than I think people were giving it credit for. What happens with Pyon Ace and Security Control is that it just gives you another Ace Digimon, which is kind of cheap to play, but has a very solid effect. Like I said, when I talk about the Nightmare Soldiers as an engine, I think you'll understand exactly why you might want to try out Pyon Ace in that deck. But Security Control is a deck that I definitely think would want to give it a shot. It can DP reduce, so it can basically hit a lot of opponents' Digimon. It can give you back a body, which when I show that video off, you'll understand exactly what I'm going with there. But additionally, it's a good fit for Security Control, in my opinion. Additionally, I think the actual Nightmare Soldiers deck is probably one of the best decks this can obviously be used in. I think it's just on the aspect that Nightmare Soldiers are obviously going to benefit because you get to play your bodies back from the trash, it innately being purple. Additionally, Myotismon and Piedmon make another card that I'll be talking about in a little bit, but the point is these are very good, and Nightmare Soldiers definitely benefits the most from Piedmon as using its both effects, but obviously Nightmare Soldiers is designed to work with Piedmon, so obviously it should be good. Additionally, any deck looking for a top-end yellow Ace or like purple Digimon kind of fits here. I have Dynasmon representing because I do like Dynasmon X. However, I think decks like that in that situation are needing some type of big top end. This could be a representation for many decks. Even some of the 7th grade Demon Lords decks don't have Ace Digimon, so you could kind of slap Piedmon in there and kind of fulfill the Ace role for a lot of decks, but pretty much I have that there. Moving into our next one, we have to visit the forest, as we have a jungle trooper who is a part of the nature spirits, as we have Hercules Kabuterimon Ace. Yes, there's a lot of Ace Digimon on the list, but that's actually because the quality of them is very high. I have this one as the next one on the list because this card really is arguably one of the best cards I think designed, and you're about to see why. So when it comes into play, first thing we have to talk about, it can blast Digivolve on any nature spirits for a cost of 3. Additionally, it can blast Digivolve on top of any green Digimon, so very good. It's also an Insectoid. Then during on play and when Digivolving, you may suspend up to 3 Digimon. For each of your opponent's Digimon, this effect suspended, you get to gain 1 memory. Then during all turns, once per turn, when this Digimon suspends until the end of your opponent's turn, one of your Digimon gains piercing and gets 3,000 DP. Additionally, this is a Nature Spirits traded card too. So what makes Hercules Ace really good is that this card is absolutely a knockout punch. The reason why I say that is that for the Nature Spirits, they definitely needed more support, and this is just an even greater level 6 to kind of go in. I think with this and Saber Leo Ace, you could just play all Aces as your level 6s, but there are some options you want to choose, but also you can take Nature Spirits in a very green route now because they were very good with their green cards, and that definitely is a boost with more green access. Additionally, its effect is just really good. I think this is what makes Hercules probably one of the best Ace Digimon printed from the set, is that it just has a very good effect. This lets you suspend Digimon. You get to gain memory as long as you're suspending your opponent's Digimon. The main reason you're probably thinking, well, how is that effect still good? You can suspend your own Digimon, so you can do that effect, so you can kind of get other effects online. But the point is, this card really does a lot for the decks it's designed for. Additionally, gaining memory back, this card can steal a turn. So I think they did take something like the Metal Garurumon from the other starter deck, that is the Ace Digimon, it gave it a little bit more of a thought process to how can we make that effect a bit better, and they decided with Hercules they found a way to do it. Additionally, its all turns effect I think is fantastic for many reasons. So when it says this Digimon suspends, this means it could be for an attack, it could be suspended by its own effect. What this allows you to do is if you blast Digivolve into this thing, you could give something piercing and 3000 DP that is already suspended during your opponent's turn. So then this is a weird way to do it, but usually you'd want to use it as an aggressive tactic. So effectively, you could use this with Alliance, which is something that you know with Nature Spirits, and their kind of field spell-esque option allows you to use Alliance. You can Alliance the Hercules and as the target for the suspension and use its effect to give one of your Digimon piercing and 3000 DP. I think that just gives the deck a lot more insulation and obviously shows off why Hercules is so good. I didn't even talk about how good Hercules is for the Insectoid deck focusing around Tyrant Kabuterimon. This is 6 and lower, so you can play this thing for free. It's debatable between this and I think Grand Kawaga Ace, which one you might want to play, but honestly, this card is hard to pass up. Additionally, when we look at the decks it supports, obviously Nature Spirits is the first one we'll talk about. I think now you have a lot going for you because Hercules can add a lot of pressure if you get the proper setup for the deck. So Nature Spirits, I think, is definitely a deck that has now risen out of its kind of just being a deck that existed thanks to EX7 to definitely being a deck that can be played past EX8. Additionally, when we look at Tyrant and the Insectoid deck, I think this is a big breath of fresh air. Obviously, with the inclusion of Shivamon Ace and now the inclusion of Hercules in such a short amount of time, I think this deck definitely gets a big step up. I also like the fact that when it comes down to if your opponent is floodgating you, Hercules can allow you to kind of deal with an opponent rather quickly if you have the right type of setup. And Hercules definitely does help you get out of situations because its suspension effect really can change the tide of battle if you just Digivolve into it without having to play it out. So that is a good card. Additionally, any deck that can kind of scramble into green, blue, well, I have blue, but I have green or Nature Spirits because blue is another color in Nature Spirits as well. But anything that can kind of get into either Nature Spirit level 5s or kind of climb into the green color really will enjoy Hercules. I think Hercules is just one of the other cards in this set that really gives a big bump to the color green because Hercules is just a very good generic Ace Digimon that can be plugged into any green deck. Now, we're moving into what I had, which was the struggle, which was the second to last card, which, you know, in the list of top 5, it's always hard to do. But I did find the card that I think is kind of sitting on the sidelines right now, but is extremely undervalued for what it's going to be like in the future when this card has a bit more targets or someone finds a way to crack it. And that's going to be one of the new level 7s in the set. We have Bolt Bautamon. I really love Bolt Bautamon because his design, he's like a wizard pirate, which I just find is kind of hilarious, but you know, Digimon. But the point is, Bolt Bautamon is underappreciated because first, let's start off with this. It actually has 2 specific DNA evolution conditions, which is either purple or black level 6, plus a yellow or green level 6 for a cost of 0. Additionally, it can DNA Digivolve with Piedmon and Myotismon for a cost of 0. And then when Digivolving, it gets to D-Digivolve 3, one of your opponent's Digimon, and for the turn, all of their Digimon get minus 6000 DP. Then, if you DNA Digivolve, you may play up to 10 play cost total worth of the Nightmare Soldiers trait Digimon cards from your trash without paying the cost. Then, during all turns, once per turn, when your other Digimon are deleted, trash your opponent's top security card. Okay, there's a lot to unpack here, but let's start off with this. First, it's a tricolor card for purple, black, yellow. The reason Bolt Bautamon, I think, stands out to me and is one of the best cards right now is that I think a lot of people underestimate how good this is as just a generic top level 7. This thing's first 2 effects as a level 7 is to Digivolve 3, and then it blankets all of your opponent's Digimon for minus 6000 DP. That's just its first 2 effects. That is insane. You get to basically take out something all the way back down to rookie, roughly, unless they have a bunch of X evolutions, and then you get to minus 6000 on all of their Digimon. That will most likely clear a board. Also, it can Digivolve generically for 5 on top of any black, purple, or yellow. So, pretty much to me, this card is fantastic. I mean, for 5 cost, it's doing a ton. You know, minusing 6000 on a board is a lot. And then you're also able to effectively Digivolve 3. I mean, that's crazy. For his DNA Digivolving effect, so in Nightmare Soldiers, this is fantastic, obviously. Or anytime you can perform the DNA because you're basically getting 10 play costs. So that's a lot of Digimon if you kind of put it together. It can be, you know, an ultimate, champion, rookies, you know, there's a lot. It could be Ace Digimon. but the point is this card's very good. But the all turns effect is something I like. When other Digimon are deleted, you trash your opponent's top security card. Yes, it's a once per turn. However, if your opponent has to do something with deletion, or you get to delete one of your opponent's Digimon through some type of effect, you can proc this on the turn it comes into play with the combination of its DNA effect, or even when you go ahead and delete Digimon through the minus 6000 DP effect of Bolt Baltamon, it will trigger its trashing effect for your opponent. So like I said, this card's fantastic. I really like how it's just a very good top end for a lot of decks. So when we move into what decks it fulfills, I think one of the best decks it fulfills, obviously, is going to be Nightmare Soldiers. I think this is a great card for Nightmare Soldiers because it definitely has a top end that's worth going into. It's like once you get to your Ace Digimon or your level, kind of level 6 and higher, you're already realizing Bolt Baltamon could drop at any minute, and that card is very strong. Moving into, obviously, another deck that is supported indirectly by Nightmare Soldiers, but also Bolt Baltamon, I think Myotismon's a very good deck for Bolt Baltamon to be in. Now, Bolt Baltamon makes Myotismon better for sure, and that's because of its association, one, with the Nightmare Soldiers line, but more so the fact that when you play Myotismon, I think what the deck was always missing is something to take advantage of your level 6s you get to play back. You get to play back stuff like your Malayo Vandemon, or for those who are wondering, that's the Marine Myotismon. I always kind of blank on some of the Myotismon's names, but basically your level 6 Myotismons you can play back with your effects. They don't really do anything except for being there. So this is a great way to turn them into something very powerful in the form of our Bolt Baltamon. Additionally, any deck who's been looking with a combination of colors, or even just want to Digivolve into a level 7, I obviously have some like Three Musketeers representing this slot because, you have a lot of level 6s that just don't turn into anything, but you could definitely turn them into Bolt Baltamon to get good effects. But any deck that can also DNA into this thing that maybe wants to play Nightmare Soldiers could do it. There's a lot of decks that will be able to take advantage of Bolt Baltamon because it's just a very strong form of removal. It almost feels like a ruin mode. The only thing that it's missing is that it needs to blanket for the entire turn, but still, it's a very good card. Now let's move into the final card, and this is no surprise to anyone, as we have Medieval Gallantmon as our final card and the best card out of EX08. I don't really think it's hard for me not to put Medieval Gallantmon in this slot. This card literally will be running formats going forward because of how strong it is. I'll just flash over it a bit because I don't really need to talk about this effect because I think I've talked about it in like 2 or 3 videos at this point, maybe more. But the point is, Medieval Gallantmon's strength is that it just fulfills so many decks' best wishes and dreams. It's a Digimon that can actually attack the turn it comes into play thanks to Vortex. It carries one of the best effects, I think, on a Digimon generically, as long as the Digimon or deck it's in is actually usable, which is Alliance. Additionally, it has the ability to suspend Digimon. It can delete them, and every time there's more suspended Digimon, it gets even more addition to its DP deletion. Additionally, it's a part of the Gallantmon or the Guilmon archetype line, so that's already a deck it can be played in. Additionally, it can proc all turns during once per turn. It can use its when Digivolving effect. I mean, like I said, this card just does so much, and even more so, it can reduce its play cost to come in. So there are a lot of decks that get supported with this. I think the first one that I think a lot of people are somewhat unhappy about it coming back, but it will take advantage of it, is Security Control. I can't get mad at Security Control for playing this card. It almost feels like this is an indirect Ace Digimon for them because it's not low enough to be an Ace Digimon, but it kind of is in a way. So I think that's really unique. But yeah, Security Control is going to love this thing. It gives them a constant like disruption with its DP deletion effect. It's very powerful. It can kind of turn the game around out of nowhere when you drop this thing, because at the end of a turn it can Vortex, and then it's just going to alliance with something on field. So like a Zwart defeat that's randomly on field that you haven't gotten rid of, you might want to get rid of it because your opponent might just say, you know what, I can alliance with that. And having something like a 24,000 DP Medieval Gallantmon doesn't sound too scary. It sounds horrifying. Moving into Gallantmon, or, Guilmon, whatever you want to say, Gallantmon really does get a big buff with this card included because it's just something that you can play that synergizes with your deck, but simultaneously kind of takes the deck in a very aggressive direction out of nowhere. Like, yes, Gallantmon wants to kind of destroy your security, it wants to blow up your Digimon, but there's just something about Medieval Gallantmon's difference that allows it to kind of turn its head and say, well, let's go for game, guys, and you try to swing through their field. I think that's just fantastic, and it synergizes well with a lot of the cards, so you might want to play it. Also, you can give it effects like Raid and all this other stuff thanks to the fact that you have staccatos that can kind of synergize with it because it is a Gallantmon. It's just very good. And then finally, I have the green decks that take advantage of this really well as red. But the main reason I wanted to go with green is that green decks have been begging for a very good top end for some of their strategies, just a Digimon they could throw in to make their deck better. I have what I think some people call a Green Ranger, or this is like Leopardmon. I think Leopardmon Turbo that kind of climbs the Leopardmon X would love this card. I know there's combos with it to play Medieval Gallantmon for even more of a reduced cost thanks to Leopardmon X. So it's really crazy. I don't want to go too much into it, but there's so many decks that will benefit from the inclusion of Medieval Gallantmon. It's crazy. Like green and red decks are going to go nuts with this card as their top end. It makes a lot of decks that seemingly don't have that much good power up top. By playing this card with those cards, you can kind of make those decks better, and I really like that. But pretty much that's all I've got for you guys today. This has been a video on the 5 best cards out of EX8, the very best of EX8, and I do hope you guys agree with me down below. But if you don't, let me know down in the comments below what you think is the best cards out of EX8, because this is obviously subjective, but these are my opinions for the best cards. But as always, this has been Brad from the Ed Army signing off, and for all of you out there, to sign on.